The Council's breaking point. The last vote. The emergency session chamber on Station Meridian had never held so many species at once. High Counselor Therax stood at the central podium, his silver scales catching the cold light from above. Around him, representatives from 47 worlds sat in their designated sections. The air recyclers worked overtime, struggling to balance the atmospheric needs of so many different life forms. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was survival. Therax's throat sac pulsed as he prepared to speak. His people, the Zelthians, were known for their calm diplomacy. For 800 years, they had helped maintain peace across the Galactic Union. But today, his hands trembled as he gripped the podium's edge. Today, there would be no diplomatic solution. The holographic display behind him flickered to life. Red zones spread across the star map like a disease. Each red sector represented territory lost to the Krell Dominion. The invasion had started 3 years ago with a single border skirmish. Now, 5 entire sectors had fallen. Billions were dead or enslaved. Honored members of the Union, Therax began, his voice amplified through the translation network. I bring grave news from the Outer Rim. The Krell have broken through our defensive line at the Helix Nebula. We lost 230 ships. The survivors report that the enemy suffered minimal losses. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Fear had a universal sound, regardless of species. Ambassador Lyria of the Aventine rose from her seat. Her people resembled tall, elegant birds with luminescent feathers. They were pacifists by nature, and the war had devastated their philosophy. How is this possible? Lyria's voice carried the musical quality of her species. We have thrown everything at them, every weapon, every strategy. The Krell should have been stopped months ago. They adapt, replied General Vorn, the Union's supreme military commander. He was a Drakthar, a species built for war, with armored hide and powerful limbs. Every tactic we use, they counter within days. Every weapon we deploy, they develop defenses against. We are not fighting an army. We are fighting an intelligence that learns faster than we can innovate. Therax activated another display. It showed footage from the last major battle. Union ships fired their plasma cannons and particle beams. The Krell vessels, dark and angular like shards of broken night, simply absorbed the attacks. Their hulls rippled and reformed. Then they returned fire with devastating accuracy. They are consuming our technology, Vorn continued. Every ship we lose, every station they capture, makes them stronger. We estimate that at the current rate of advance, the Krell will reach the core worlds in 18 months. In 3 years, the Galactic Union will cease to exist. Silence fell. The weight of extinction pressed down on every being in the chamber. Species that had existed for millions of years faced the very real possibility of annihilation. Therax had seen this coming for months. He had prepared for this moment, but that did not make it easier. There is one option we have not considered, Therax said quietly. The chamber remained silent, but he felt the shift in attention. Everyone knew what he was about to suggest. They had all thought about it in private, in the dark moments when hope seemed impossible, but none had dared speak it aloud. No, Ambassador Lyria whispered. You cannot mean them. I propose we contact Earth. I propose we ask humanity for help. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Half the representatives leaped to their feet, shouting in dozens of languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Some called Therax a traitor, others called him insane, a few simply stared in horror. General Vorn slammed his fist on his console, demanding order. It took several minutes for the chaos to subside. When it did, Counselor Draxus of the Orinthian Confederation stood to speak. His skin had the texture of aged stone, and his eyes glowed with inner fire. The humans were quarantined for good reason, Draxus said. His voice was deep and resonant. Have you all forgotten the Scorched Path incident? Have you forgotten what they did? Therax had not forgotten. No one who had been alive 300 years ago could forget. The memories were burned into galactic history like a brand. The humans were newcomers to the galactic community, young, aggressive, and unpredictable. They had joined the Union with enthusiasm, eager to prove themselves. For 50 years, they had been model citizens. They shared technology, established trade routes, and sent diplomats to every major world. Then came the raiders. A criminal alliance called the Vargish Syndicate had attacked a human colony on the edge of Union space. The settlement was small, barely 30,000 people. The Vargish killed 5,000 colonists and took another 10,000 as slaves. It was a tragedy, but such things happened on the frontier. The Union mobilized its peacekeeping forces. They estimated it would take 6 months to locate and apprehend the raiders. Humanity did not wait 6 months. The human military response was immediate. They called it Operation Scorched Path. In 4 weeks, humanity tracked the Vargish across 12 systems. They did not arrest them. They did not negotiate. They annihilated them. Every ship, every base, every member of the syndicate, from the leaders to the lowest recruit. The Vargish Syndicate, which had terrorized the outer sectors for 2 centuries, ceased to exist. But humanity did not stop there. They hunted down anyone who had bought Vargish slaves. They destroyed black market stations that had traded with the syndicate. They left a trail of destruction across a quarter of the galaxy. When the Union peacekeepers finally caught up with the human fleet, they found nothing but debris fields and freed slaves. The human admiral, a woman named Chen, had simply said, "We recovered our people, we eliminated the threat. The problem is solved." The Union was horrified. They called it genocide. They called it excessive force. They called humanity dangerous and unstable. The debate lasted for 2 years. In the end, the Union voted to quarantine Earth. Humanity was cut off from the galactic community. All trade ceased. All diplomatic relations ended. The Sol system became a forbidden zone. The humans had not resisted. They had simply returned home and closed their borders. For 300 years, they had remained silent. No one knew what had happened to them. Some speculated they had destroyed themselves in war. Others believed they had transcended into something beyond understanding. Most simply tried not to think about them at all. The humans are monsters, Counselor Draxus continued. They do not think like civilized beings. When threatened, they do not defend proportionally. They obliterate. They do not accept peace terms. They do not show mercy to enemies. They fight to total victory or total destruction, nothing in between. That is precisely why we need them, Farax replied. His voice was steady now. The trembling had stopped. He had committed to this path. He activated another display. It showed casualty reports scrolling endlessly. Billions dead, trillions displaced, entire species on the brink of extinction. My home colony, Zelthus Prime, is in the Krell's path. My family is there, my children, my grandchildren. In 3 months, the Krell will reach them. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons cannot harm them. Our strategies cannot outthink them. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every representative. I will do anything to save my family. I will ally with monsters if monsters are what we need. Ambassador Lyria stood again. Her feathers had lost their luminescence, dimmed by grief. The Krell took my world 2 years ago. 4 billion of my people died in a single day. I watched my home burn from orbit as we evacuated the survivors. If the humans can prevent that from happening to even one more world, then I support this proposal. I vote yes. The chamber fell silent again. Lyria's people were pacifists. If they were willing to call for human help, the situation was truly desperate. Therax saw the shift in the room. Fear of the Krell was finally outweighing fear of humanity. We do not even know if they will answer, General Vorn said. 300 years is a long time. The humans may have forgiven us. They may have forgotten us, or they may have become something we cannot even comprehend. Then we will face that consequence, Therax replied. But consider this. The Krell will destroy us with absolute certainty. The humans might destroy us. I will take might over certainty. The vote was called. It took 4 hours. The debate was fierce. Representatives argued, pleaded, and threatened. Species with territories far from the Krell advance voted against the proposal. Those whose worlds faced immediate danger voted in favor. In the end,
The motion passed by a margin of 8 votes. Therax felt no triumph, only grim determination. He supervised the preparation of the message probe personally. The message was simple and direct. Humanity valued honesty, according to the old records. The probe contained complete tactical data on the Krell, casualty reports, and a simple request. To the people of Earth, 300 years ago, we ask you to leave. We feared what you were. Now we are dying. An enemy we cannot defeat is consuming our worlds. Billions are dead. More will die. We were wrong to cast you out, but we ask for your help anyway. If you still remember us, if you still remember the galaxy you once called home, please answer. We need you. The probe launched from Station Meridian's main bay. Therax watched from the observation deck as it accelerated.
Humanity answers. The return of Earth. Commander Sarah Okonkwo was in her meditation garden when the alert came through. The garden floated in a biodome on Luna Station, Earth's primary military headquarters. Through the transparent ceiling, she could see Earth hanging in the black sky, blue and green and impossibly beautiful. 300 years of careful stewardship had healed the scars humanity had once inflicted on their homeworld. Sarah had been tending her grandmother's orchids when her neural implant chimed with an emergency protocol. The sound was specific, one she had trained for but never expected to hear. Something had crossed the quarantine boundary. 15 minutes later, she stood in the Strategic Command Center deep beneath Luna's surface. The room was circular, with holographic displays forming a sphere around the central platform. Military officers and civilian advisors filled the observation rings. Every face showed the same expression: shock. "Confirmed alien probe, Commander," reported Lieutenant Chen. He was young, barely 30, and had never seen an alien in his life. None of them had. For 3 centuries, humanity had been alone. It's broadcasting on old Galactic Union frequencies. The signature matches historical records perfectly. "Play the message," Sarah ordered. The voice that filled the command center spoke in Galactic Common, a language that humanity had not heard in 300 years. Sarah's translation implant converted it instantly. As she listened, her expression remained carefully neutral, but inside, emotions churned: anger, vindication, sadness, and something else, something that felt like purpose. The message was desperate. It was honest. It was a plea from people who had no other options left. Sarah had studied the historical records extensively. She knew what the Galactic Union had said about humanity. Monsters, dangerous, unstable, unable to control their violent impulses. They had exiled humanity and built a wall of silence around Earth. "They threw us away," someone muttered in the back of the room. "Now they want us back because they need killers." "Silence," Sarah said quietly, but she understood the sentiment. 300 years ago, her ancestor, Admiral Chen, had led Operation Scorched Path. Admiral Chen had done what she thought was right, protecting human colonists and ending a threat. The galaxy had judged her for it, judged all of humanity for it. "Establish a link with the probe," Sarah ordered. "Send a request for full tactical data. Then contact Earth Central Command, summon the Terran Assembly. They need to see this." The data that came back was comprehensive. The Galactic Union had sent everything: battle reports, casualty projections, recordings of Krell attacks. Sarah watched the footage of the enemy in action. The Krell ships moved like living things, their dark hulls rippling and reforming. They consumed technology, adapted to weapons, and showed no mercy. "They are facing extinction," Lieutenant Chen said softly. 47 species, trillions of lives, all of them dying. Sarah studied the tactical displays. The Krell advance was methodical and unstoppable. The Union fleets fought bravely but ineffectively. She saw the problem immediately. They were fighting defensively, trying to protect everything and therefore protecting nothing. They established lines that the Krell broke through. They evacuated worlds instead of making the enemy pay for every advance. They are fighting to survive, Sarah said, not to win. There is a difference. The Terran Assembly convened within 6 hours. Representatives from every nation on Earth, from the Mars colonies, from the stations scattered throughout the Sol system. Humanity had spent 3 centuries building a paradise. They had unified under a single banner. They had eliminated poverty, disease, and war among themselves. They had become everything they once dreamed of being. And now, the galaxy that had rejected them was asking them to remember how to make war. The debate lasted through the night. Some argued for isolation. The Union had abandoned humanity. Let them face the consequences of their choices. Others argued that helping the Union was in humanity's best interest. If the Krell consumed the galaxy, they would eventually turn towards Sol. But the debate centered on a deeper question. What kind of people were humans? For 300 years, they had lived in peace. They had grown. They had changed. Were they still the warriors who had terrified the galaxy? Should they be? Sarah stood to address the assembly in the early hours of the morning. She had been silent throughout most of the debate, listening to every argument. Now, as the sun rose over Earth far below the assembly hall, she spoke. 300 years ago, the galaxy called us monsters. They said we were too violent, too aggressive, too dangerous to exist among civilized species. They exiled us, and we accepted that judgment. We came home. We built peace. We proved we could live without war. She activated a display showing the message from the Galactic Union. Now they need what they feared. They need warriors. They need people who understand that sometimes survival requires terrible choices. They need us to be the monsters they remember. Sarah looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of the representatives. I have a question for all of you. If we help them, if we go back to the galaxy as warriors, do we lose everything we have built here? Do we become monsters again? Or do we prove that humanity can be both, that we can be peaceful when peace is possible, and fierce when fierceness is necessary? The vote was not immediate. It took another 12 hours of debate. But when it came, it was decisive. Humanity would answer the call. They would help the Galactic Union fight the Krell, but they would do it on their own terms, as equals, not as exiled children begging to return home. Sarah was given command of the Expeditionary Force, 10,000 ships, 200,000 military personnel. It was a fraction of humanity's total strength, but it was enough. The fleet assembled at the edge of the Sol system, where the quarantine boundary had stood for 3 centuries. Sarah stood on the bridge of the flagship, indomitable. Through the viewports, she could see the other ships forming up. Destroyers with sleek hulls designed for speed and precision, carriers holding squadrons of fighters, battleships that could crack planets, and the troop transports carrying the Marines who would fight on the ground. All ships report ready, Commander, her executive officer reported. Sarah took a deep breath. She thought about her ancestor, Admiral Chen, who made the choices that led to humanity's exile. She thought about the 300 years of peace humanity had earned. She thought about the billions of aliens who were dying in a war they could not win. Open fleet-wide channel, Sarah ordered. Channel open, Commander. This is Commander Okonkwo to all ships. 300 years ago, we were cast out of the galactic community. They feared us. They called us monsters. They were not entirely wrong. We were fierce. We were uncompromising. When we fought to win, and the galaxy could not accept that. She paused. Today we return to that galaxy, not as the monsters they feared, not as the exiles seeking forgiveness. We return as protectors. The galaxy is burning, and we are going to help put out the fire, whether they are ready for us or not. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel. Behind them, Earth grew smaller. Ahead, the galaxy waited. The journey took 6 days. 6 days for Sarah to study every detail of the Krell tactics. 6 days for her officers to develop strategies. 6 days
for the troops to prepare for a war unlike any humanity had fought before. When they emerged at Station Meridian, the response was immediate. Alarms sounded across the station. Union ships scrambled to intercept positions. Sarah smiled grimly. Even asking for help, they feared humanity's arrival. "This is Commander Sarah Okonkwo of the Terran Expeditionary Force. We are here in response to your request for assistance, requesting permission to dock and meet with Union leadership." The silence that followed lasted almost a full minute. Then a familiar voice responded, "Commander Okonkwo, this is High Counselor Therax of the Galactic Union. Permission granted. Welcome back to the galaxy." The meeting took place in the same emergency session chamber where the vote to contact Earth had occurred. Sarah walked through the corridors of Station Meridian with her command staff. She noticed how the aliens reacted to their presence. Some stared in fascination, some in fear. Parents pulled their children behind them. Soldiers gripped weapons tighter. When Sarah entered the chamber, every conversation stopped. 47 species turned to look at her. She was tall by human standards with dark skin and close-cropped hair. She wore the simple uniform of the Terran Defense Force. No decorations, no weapons. She did not need them to command attention. High Counselor Therax stood at the central podium. He was reptilian, his silver scales catching the light. I'd studied his species in the historical databases. Zelthians were known for diplomacy and wisdom. Therax looked old, his scales dull with age or stress. "Commander Okonkwo," Therax said. His translator converted